are once again at the very, very, very sunny corner of Glenwood and Lunt. We're in the heart of Rogers Park in Chicago. We're up here on the stage at the Heartland Cafe, where every Saturday morning we bring you another edition of Live from the Heartland Radio. And this is Michael James, your host for this morning's edition. And it's the 20th of June. We have a nice lineup. I hope you'll stay tuned here at the left end of your dial. We're going to start off with Robert Wolf. He's the editor of Eating in Place, telling the story of local foods. He has a publishing house. He's written for the Tribune for a number of years, and he's been on a lot of radio and TV shows. A little bit later, we're going to be joined by Pearl Pistol, a.k.a. Rose Gasinik, and she's putting together the New American Review show that's coming to the No Exit next month. And we'll round out the show with a longtime friend and member of the Rogers Park community, Bill Page. And Bill Page is the booker for today's Rogers Park Artist of the Wall Festival, and he's going to tell us about the music he's booked over the years, what's happening today, a few other projects, and prepare us for his leaving for Texas. Okay, so let's start off. Let's start off with Robert Wolf, the writer, the radio personality, and the editor and publisher. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Michael.
It's good to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me.
We probably have bumped into each other many times, but we actually met here at the Heartland Cafe. You brought a beautiful little book in a couple months back called Eating in Place, telling the story of local foods. And I devoured a good chunk of it last night, and it was just, I thought all the people who work here at the Heartland should be reading it. Tell us a little bit how this book came to be and what it's all about.
All right. Well, as you know, I run a nonprofit publishing company called Free River Press, and the mission is to document contemporary America through writing workshops that I conduct with people from all walks of life. And this was grew out of a series of writing workshops that I did with some Wisconsin farmers, some Iowa farmers, with a couple of chefs. Well, of course, there was an interview with Alice Waters. But local foods is such an important topic. I wanted to deal with it. It's a piece of a larger puzzle that I call regionalism or economic decentralization. So it seemed a natural thing for me to do, for Free River Press to do.
So this particular book, and you've put out other books, but this particular book has a collection of interviews and stories told by a number of farmers. I was not only found Alice Waters' interview really interesting, and she talks about bringing good foods into the public schools. She gives a little history of Chez Panisse, her restaurant, where I actually visited, and while she wasn't there, they knew we were coming, so they gave us a great tour. I was very impressed, and she also was a member of the free speech movement back in Berkeley days,
okay.
which so I'm sure we were at a lot of the same rallies. How did you come to, who did that interview with her?
I did.
You did the interview.
Yeah.
I wasn't clear in the book who did all the interviews. So you did them all, or you had people writing?
That was the only actual interview. The rest of them were stories that were written for the book, and some of them were written in a community center in a little town on the Mississippi River, DeSoto, Wisconsin, and I had a number of organic farmers took part in that. Some work was done long distance, like with Barry Bursack, who I believe he set up the first organic farmers market in Chicago. And I think there may have been one or two other pieces that were done long distance, but basically what I do with folks is we sit around a table and they tell stories. They tell the story that they want to write. And other people will ask them questions about that to get them to flesh it out more. Then they write, and maybe for an hour, hour and a half, they read it back, they get comments, and here's what I'd like to hear more of, and so forth. They go back, they write. We repeat this process sometimes for 3 days. I can get a book out of a book the size of this, is an roughly 80-page book. We can do this in 3 days. A lot of times I will actually produce more than one story, maybe two, sometimes three stories, depends on the group of people. But this one was done it was done actually in the period of 2 days.
This is something else, and one of the other actually it's an article in here by Dennis Keeney called Midwest Agriculture,
yeah.
Past, Present, and Future. And I just started it, but tell us a little bit about that interview, because this guy really has a grasp of the history of agriculture.
Right, Dennis. Yeah, Dennis was the founding director of the Leopold Center for Sustainable Agriculture. Now, this piece.
Tell us who Adolf Leopold was.
Well, a great ecologist and sort of like the grandfather of the whole ecology movement here in this country. And so the Leopold Center is at Iowa State University. It's funded through the university from a mandate by the state of Iowa. Dennis was founding director. This story, I forgot to mention, this story was not written for the book, but it was, what I did was I worked with him on editing it down from a talk that he gave at a NATO conference in Poland. And he's right on. I said I wanted this thing in the book because I wanted people to get an idea of how did this local foods develop. I mean, what's the background in American agriculture that led to the industrialization of agriculture, to the turnaround or the rebellion, so to speak, with the organic foods movement, and then now that a lot of organic has been almost taken over, the largest market share taken over by industrial agriculture. Now we've got the local foods movement, which some people refer to as beyond organics, because you're not only supporting the local farmer, you're supporting the local economy.
Well, this book, Eating in Place, Telling the Story of Local Foods, that you put together, Robert Wolf, it brought back a lot of memories for me. There's a lot of farms up and around, in the southwest corner of Wisconsin, up around Viroqua. I remember, back in the 60s into the 70s, it was like all the people I knew, there were hippie farms up there, people growing all kind of produce. And people going back and forth from Chicago. And I was very impressed last year the year before, I went up to the Moses Festival, or the Moses Conference. It's the Midwest Organic Sustainable Agriculture or Energy Conference. And that comes up in the book a couple of times. There were there were thousands of people there. There were, who were farmers and people into food. And one of the people I met there was a guy named Elmer, who was in the exhibit area. And he had kind of a tractor general store. And in the book, this woman from Buffalo County, the farmer's daughter,
Yep.
She's talking about how she gets into organic food and bringing back the family farm and dealing with her husband who likes tractors. She didn't like his tractor that he got. She wanted her own. She finds this guy Elmer. He finds her an old Alice Chalmers tractor. I met this guy Elmer, and he had an exhibit at the Moses event where he had all these old seed bags. They were just beautiful graphics, and he gave me a price for selling all of the seed bags, hundreds of them, which was in the thousands of dollars. But I thought this would make a great traveling show if someone put it together. So Elmer, if you're listening, if you hear about it, you got an art exhibit there that you could probably bring you a lot more money over time.